Why not? Let's talk about Ben Simmons again because he is just the topic of the hour, it seems, recently. So, I mentioned this in one of the previous videos that someone by the name of Aaron Rosenberg reported this past week that Ben Simmons was being traded to the Golden State Warriors, which was later then noted as being an invalid statement and was debunked. So he is not being traded to the Warriors, at least at this time, and he is still a member of the Brooklyn Nets. But I think it would be cool to take this time to kind of speak about whether or not he would actually be a good fit on the Golden State Warriors, because I have thought about potential trade destinations for Ben Simmons previously, and Golden State, in my opinion, would be one of the better fits, but I don't know if he fits character-wise on that team at this juncture. So what I mean by that is, if you guys recall, Draymond Green had an incident with now Washington Wizard Jordan Poole, where they got into some sort of disagreement or argument in practice, and Draymond Green punched the daylights out of Jordan Poole. So obviously, I think that situation is more of a Draymond issue than a Jordan Poole issue. That's just me personally. That's what I think, because I think Draymond is a very aggressive human being, and that's kind of the role that he embraces in the NBA, which has turned out to hurt him, like this past season where he got suspended indefinitely after also like punching Nurkic in the face. So my point being is that someone like Ben Simmons, who has been categorized as being sensitive, if you will, which I'm not saying there's any merit to that. I don't know Ben Simmons personally, so I can't say whether or not that's the case. I think the holdout situation didn't have to be the way that it was, so that I think kind of paints his character in a certain way. But my point being is that I don't know if Draymond Green and Ben Simmons would mesh personality-wise. I think Steph Curry is a fairly easy person to mesh with, and I think Steph Curry just takes basketball very seriously, and that's why he is as great as he is. So I think it could benefit Ben Simmons, but at the same time, I think it could go either way. It could be a great fit, or it could be an absolutely terrible fit. But I think Ben Simmons would do a lot of what the Warriors kind of wanted Dario Saric to do when they signed him. And I think Saric is still on the roster. But I think Ben Simmons is more athletic, he's a better passer, and he can facilitate the offense in whatever which way he needs to. And he's a good rebounder, right? Which the Warriors don't have great rebounding. I mean, Kevon Looney is a decent rebounder. He has a couple of games where he's had, big rebounding numbers. Draymond's a decent rebounder, but they really don't have a designated rebounder. So I think Ben Simmons could slot into that team and be a great rebounder. He could probably get 10 rebounds a game if he really was trying to, pride himself on that. And he would also be a great assist guy. I mean, Steph would be able to play off the ball more, and if you guys have watched enough of Steph Curry's tape, you'll see how well he moves off the ball. So taking the ball out of his hands to allow him to move freely around the court and run sets to get Steph open, especially now that you don't have Klay Thompson, would be really good for their team. I think that would put them in a better position for this upcoming season than they were in this past season. So I don't know what the actual trade would have to look like in order for them to get Ben Simmons, but I think it would also be important to know that he's going to re-sign to some extent, but I don't know if the Warriors would even want to commit to re-signing him at this point because they don't really know how that's going to go, right? So I think even if you do re-sign Ben Simmons, he's definitely not making the same paycheck that he was getting this year. I mean, he's making $40 million this year. So if you take a chance on Ben Simmons and he works out for your team and it makes your team better, I could see him making, 10 million for the next couple of years, right? But that's the absolute best case scenario. I don't see a world where Ben Simmons is making more than $10 million a year, even if he comes back and averages like a double-double. I just don't see it, because I think there's too much hesitancy from GMs and team presidents where they're like, okay, it's a contract year. The notion around this guy is that he doesn't really give a shit about basketball. He wants to make money. He wants to be a celebrity. And that's it. So why are we going to pay him this amount of money? Let's sign him to another, like a 1-in-1 deal where we have him on a guaranteed contract for the first year. And then the second year's a team option. So he really has to play and play well to earn his money, right? And it's unfortunate, because if Ben didn't kind of, have his career go this way with the holdout situation and then how it's been in Brooklyn and all that, he probably would have a 5-year contract already lined up, guaranteed money, max money, right? But that's just not how the cookie crumbled for him. But I do think he could help the Golden State Warriors. I really do. And I think the Golden State Warriors are kind of in need of a player like Ben Simmons. But there's not really a lot of players like Ben Simmons, which is why he still has a little bit of power in his court. But overall, it's going to take a lot. And I think if Steph and Draymond are not down with that, and don't want this type of attention coming to their team, I think that's where you kind of cut it, right? Like you can't bring a guy like this in if your star players and the guys who have won championships for you aren't okay with it, right? So I would hope if they do consider bringing in Ben Simmons, they're at least, going to Steph, going to Draymond, and, go to Pajemski too. Ask the young guys what they think. I think it's valid for team execs to go to their personnel that are actually on the court and run it by them before they make these major trades, because you really need to know, because that's, super important. You could have a ton of talented people in a room, but if they're not willing to work together as a team, they're not going to be good. They're just not going to be good. So I think it's very important to make sure that the vibe would pass with everyone in that roster and in that locker room before you go out and acquire a guy like Ben Simmons, who's had a lot of negative media attention around him, right? But it could be a home run or could be a strikeout. I know we're talking about basketball, but there's a baseball reference for you. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think this would be a good spot for Ben Simmons to land? Do you think he should, get traded to a different team? Do you think he'll get traded at all? Let me know what you think. Catch you with the next one. Peace.